Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 187, Activate the Flow of Good. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here today in the 818 studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 187 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I want to be the first to welcome you to a brand new week here, halfway through the month of January. It's hard to believe we're already 3 weeks into January. It feels like Christmas was just a couple of weeks ago.
It really, really does. And I know many of our listeners are probably feeling that too. January always seems to be a really fast month. Mm-hmm. There's something about catching up from the holidays. It's like emails and phone calls and stuff that you said was going to wait until January. You're like, wait, how is it already mid-January and I haven't done it yet?
That has absolutely been me. I don't know, December just kind of gets really kind of long and stretched out. I think it's because, we spend a ton of time at home and then, January kicks in and everything snaps back and then you kind of calendar whiplash.
It's true. It's true. Well, it's also why we started the year with a lot of intention on the show, because we want you to be supported, friends, on your journey. And we have heard from many of you that it's like the bright spot of your week. Somebody said, or like, oh my goodness, I forgot what truth was until I turned on your show. And it's like, oh yeah, I can create my world. I don't have to be sad or worried or sick or whatever. I can have a different experience than I hear being reported on in the news. And, it's what we seek to be. It's a source of inspiration for you and spiritual teaching. And this month is really fun for me because it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Basically, we're taking you on a prosperity journey this month, but we started the month with the idea of the new year bringing new dreams. And so we know as our listeners, because so many of you are so serious about your journey, that you have a lot of intention, you have New Year's goals, you are thinking about it, you're praying about it, you're starting the morning off with your morning pages. I just started Unity North Tampa on the morning pages. Every single member got one that was there on Sunday, and we handed them more for later. So they're going to be every morning seeking, what is my I am? What is my gratitude? What is my daily task of the day? So many of us are working diligently. And as I say work, it is enjoyable, but it's called work because you have to do it every day. It's called soul work and spiritual work, because if you don't show up, you're not going to get paid. You know what I'm saying? Right. You got to show up to get paid if you work a job. And when you're doing spiritual work, when you show up, wow, the dividends are amazing. You can't put a price on the spiritual dividends that you receive when doing your soul work. It's a joy. It is an effort, but it is a joy. And again, the benefits are impossible to put a number on, because you have more peace, more joy, more prosperity, more goodness, less stress, a lot more happiness, definitely more laughter, because you see life as this grand play that you're a part of. So, friends, we're happy for you to be with us, and we're happy to be taking you a little bit through the book. I'm just kind of jumping off the themes, because many of you are also joining us at Unity North Tampa. Those talks are now available on the podcast channel, which is awesome. We're so happy to have those on board. And my book, Prosperity for You, was written several years ago for CCU Orlando because, frankly, I was tired of all the prosperity books. I had taught all the ones that were known. I'd studied, within New Thought, and then I'd studied ones outside of New Thought. And I said, I'm going to create my own brand of prosperity, what has worked for me and my life. And today, our show title is
Activate the Flow of Good. Activate the flow
yes.
of good.
Yes, activate the flow of good. So now, before we get into that, I just want to, as a reminder, tell you what we've talked about the last couple of weeks, because I'm also going to encourage you to go back and listen to these shows, not once, maybe 2 or 3 times, especially if you have a commute, especially if you have a walk. Get these thoughts into your head, because it will change your life for the better. You will learn, in fact, to activate the flow of good. Right. So the first show of the year, we talked about New Year, New Dreams. It was about remembering that our consciousness creates the world in which we live. Even our experience of the larger world changes as our consciousness shifts. We begin to see divine order in places people see nothing but disease. We begin to see blessing when we're supposed to feel pushed down, because we know there's a purpose in what's happening. So this first show of the year is important because we talked about how is consciousness created and what can you do to create a consciousness that is full of abundance and love and growth and prosperity. All right. So then last week we talked about change in the soul. And we said, change is the language of the soul. And that to really begin to embody what we want, what we love, to really begin to live into our purpose as God has designed for us, then we have got to change. We've got to change our thoughts. And sometimes even we have to begin to look at our feeling reality to see how are our thoughts and feelings keeping us back. And when we can see what that is, then we can begin to change those thoughts and feelings to move forward into new ways of manifesting. But everything in your life right now, friends, is a result of the consciousness up to this point. The good news is you can change all that. So I want you to sit with that for a minute. The good news is you can change all that. Just think about this for a moment. When we agree that we are a powerful co-creator with God, something fundamental shifts within us. Because rather than being a victim to life, we become creators. We become creators of our lives, of our incomes, of healthy relationships, and it is up to us to choose a new way of doing and being, for this to happen. But in fact, we are powerful co-creators. And in the scriptures, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of support for this idea. And before I get into it, I want to just say today, Activate the Flow of Good is about learning to be a giver to life. A giver to life. Many of us have known takers. Some of us have been the takers at different times. Yep, we've been the takers at different times. And it's normal to at times be a giver and at times be a taker. But we don't want to get so calcified in one of those roles that we are victimizing somebody by our behaviors. So we need to figure out, where are we on this continuum? Are we a giver to life? Are we a taker? And to activate the flow of good, you've got to be a giver. You've got to be a giver, because remember, if everything you have right now is a result of your consciousness, all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your actions, all of your beliefs got you to this point. So right now, if you want more good, if there are dreams you have, if there are things that you want to manifest, to activate the flow of good rather than sitting and waiting, which I cannot tell you, friends, a number of people that say, I'm just waiting for God to bring it. Well, where do you think God is? We keep saying God is within us, and then we're waiting, and God's saying, I'm waiting, right? We say, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And God says, whatever you want to do, do it. See, we're in this waiting game when in fact we are the activators of the flow of good in our lives and in the universe. So is there this grand good called God? Absolutely. But that God is present in you and all around you and gave us this planet Earth, to grow, to prosper, evolve. And it is up to us to begin to practice these principles. It is up to us to be powerful co-creators. When we believe we're powerful co-creators, we remember that to activate the flow of good, there's something we need to be doing. There's something we need to be doing. What are those things? What are those things? Anybody who's been in my classes for very long, number one is going to say probably tithing. Tithing 10% of all you earn to your place of spiritual nourishment. Somebody told me the other day that this show was their greatest source of spiritual nourishment. But we've received not one tithe gift from that individual. That's out of integrity. If I receive my spiritual growth somewhere, I tithe. I don't even think about it anymore. Tithe, I give. And you know what? It ensures it'll be there. It ensures I will receive. It ensures I will continue to receive when I give to my place of spiritual nourishment. As a matter of fact, I give more than 10% away every month. It's been amazing, my process in the last year financially. I am just amazed at how Spirit works. Tithing 10%. So the word tithe means 1/10, by the way. That's how we came up with that. I love that it doesn't mean 1/14. I could never do the math, but I like 1/10 because it's just enough to feel it. So it requires me to trust God in my giving. But I want you to think about right now, if you're driving, pick up something in the car or hold the steering wheel. If you're in the kitchen cooking, I want you to stand there with your hands full and then try to pick up something. You can't do it. You cannot receive while your hands are closed, right? So the giving is like opening your hand to receive. You give to receive. And here's what the scriptures say. This is from Luke 6:38. Luke 6:38 says, "Give and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you."
Tell me that again.
Luke 6:38.
Thank you.
Double check it and make sure I'm not wrong. It's 37 or 38.
Yeah, give and it will be given to you, a good measure,
Give.
pressed down.
Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So the scripture is telling us something important. As you give, right? You've heard it said, so too shall you receive. It's right there from the scriptures. Give and it will be given to you. And so, as I've worked with people over the years, I've really seen people manifest exactly the way they give. Like one person said to me, this is several years ago, and by the way, I have permission to share this. She said, it's really weird. I keep getting these little jobs here and there, but I'm never getting like a big paycheck. I said, oh, that is interesting. I said, why do you think that is? I don't know. And I said, well, she said, do you have any idea? I said, well, I'm going to get kind of personal and ask you, how are you tithing? She goes, what do you mean? I said, do you tithe in small little drips and drabs, or are you tithing off your income? And she goes, oh my goodness, that's exactly how I'm tithing. That's exactly how I'm tithing. So I want to encourage you to think about this, friends. Sometimes people hear the word tithe and turn it off right away. That's fine with me. That's your problem, not mine. So I love to tithe. I love to give, and I know it puts me in the flow. I love to give. I love to be the one that buys dinner with friends. I love to buy coffee. One time in the last year, it was a really, that month was a little close financially. I was like, this is interesting. And a friend asked me out to coffee, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to buy. I need to feel prosperous. Later that day, I got a check. I was like, man, God is right on time. So I just, even though giving in that way is not tithing, of course, but it was just a way. I was like, okay, if I'm feeling out of the flow, I know what I have to do is give. So if somebody said to me, well, so how do I activate the flow of good? I could say in one word, give. Just be about giving. Give your time, give your money. As Stretton Smith said in the old Unity program of 4 T's, it was called the 4T: tithe your time, talent, and treasure. Right? Tithing of your time, talent, and treasure. So a lot of times if people aren't working, they'll say, well, what do I do if I can't tithe? I say, well, can you give your time? Can you help out a neighbor? Can you help out a friend? Can you volunteer at a children's shelter? I did that in ministerial school. You can always find a way to give of yourself to others. Volunteer at a retirement home. Volunteer. Give of your time. So when you're thinking about activating the flow of good, remember, it doesn't really even matter how you give, just start giving. Because anytime you give, you're saying, I'm worth this, I have value, and I'm going to give. One of the key things I see in people that I've worked with over the years that are depressed is none of them are giving. Not a single one is giving of themselves. They're staying at home. They're plugged in all the time. They are addicted to social media. They're not leaving the house. And they're not giving of themselves. To me, giving is the way to activate the flow of good. And I had a wonderful example with my mother in this. She was the biggest giver I know, and had so many friends and connections. My dad as well. Both my parents were big givers to life. So I have really great examples I grew up with. We didn't always have a lot of money, but you know what? We always had room for one more at the table. We always had time to give somebody a ride or to help somebody else out financially or to help a friend figure out a job. There was always time and energy to do that. How, I don't know, with all those house of kids. So giving activates the flow of good. Giving activates the flow of good. Number one way is to tithe, which is 10% of your income, to the place that you receive your spiritual food. Where is that? It could be your church. It could be the podcast. It could be a variety of places. And what I want to encourage you to do is, this is part of your soul's journey, is praying about, where does my tithe go? I had somebody ask me the other day, I said, yeah, give your tithe to Unity North Tampa. I'm employed there. They pay my salary. Yes, tithe there. If you listen to the podcast all the time, tithe there. That's why there's a donate button. It's a tax-deductible donation, right? But wherever it is, tithe. I often have tithed to Edwin Gaines, was such an important teacher for me in prosperity. And we have become the dearest of friends over the years. I guess that's what happens when you give somebody thousands of dollars over the years. You just become connected. You just become connected. And I am so thrilled to do it. I feel so abundant and prosperous every time I can write her a check, because I know she's helped millions of people know their prosperity. I'm thrilled to send her a tithe check. Thrilled. So somebody asked me the other day, I don't know, I just don't have much joy in tithing. I go, well, you know what? You may want to save yourself the tithe then, because if you're not tithing in joy, what you're saying is, every time you give that 10%, I really don't want to give. What I would encourage you to do is find joy. If there's not joy in giving, you may be giving to the wrong place. So, I believe it's natural to want to give to where we're spiritually fed, because you receive there. I was thinking of some of the incredible volunteers that I experienced at Unity North Tampa. And, it was really fun off my first paycheck to over tithe. Yeah, this is great. I love giving to Orlando Minority Youth Golf Association because every time I talk to Dr. Dorsey, I'm inspired, right? So one of the things that I use as my measurement for where I tithe is what inspires me and causes me to remember the truth of who I am. All right, so think about that. Think about that. Where are you spiritually fed? And we'll be right back after these brief messages. Hello. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Thank you for joining me today. I am also the senior minister at Unity North Tampa, and in January, both my worlds are coming together in a powerful way. I'm going to be doing a Sunday morning series and Monday evening class on my book, Prosperity for You. Friends, I love to help people start the year off right by setting good sacred intentions and remembering what a powerful co-creator they are. We are going to be studying my book, this 4-week intensive series, to remind ourselves that as we change our thoughts, we change our world, and that in fact, we have the power to bring more good, more money, more love, more peace even into our lives and in the world. Prosperity for You begins on Monday, January 10th. And to register for that course, please go to my website, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. Click on the Classes and Retreats tab, and you will be able to go and book that class where it says Book Now. As you book now, you'll receive all the information you need to join us on Monday, January 10th at 7 p.m. I also hope to see you or would love to have you watch online at Unity North Tampa on Sunday morning, January 9th at 11 a.m. I'm so thrilled to be bringing you this course, dear friend, and am happy to have you join us online or in person. The course on January 10th is online only. Go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com for more information and to register for Prosperity for You, and I will see you in person at Unity North Tampa on Sunday, January 9th. Thank you so much for being with me today, dear friend, and blessings on the journey. Hello and welcome back. Happy to have you with us. I get so excited when I talk about tithing. I was like, how is 20 minutes up already? But what I love about anytime we talk about giving is I think we forget how powerful we are, and so what I love about this law of giving and receiving, also called the law of cause and effect, often in the East called the law of karma, is that it puts us in the driver's seat of our receiving. And it seems to be really popular nowadays to blame everybody for our situation. And I just want to say that it's much more empowering to live from the place of spiritual principle, where we know that we are powerful co-creators. And you can test out what I'm saying. You don't have to trust me. Try it. It's like you can say, I don't believe in that. Absolutely fine. Or you could try it. What I always say about tithing is, try it for 6 weeks or 6 months. It took me a while. It took me probably a couple months to really start seeing, the benefits of my tithing. But it wasn't just tithing I was doing either. There was some other things, and that's what I want to talk about next. We talked in the first half about tithing and about just beginning to be a giver to life. And this is really what I mean, that there are ways of sharing your time and your talent, certainly, but there are other ways of giving that are emotional, and this is the gift of forgiveness. This is the gift of forgiveness, and this is a law we come back to very, very often because of its power. But forgiveness is the highest spiritual practice I know to move you forward on the journey, at the same time setting you up to receive bigger than you ever have. So it's a very power-packed spiritual law. And what I've noticed is that it is in every world religion and indigenous tradition I have ever studied. There are few things that are in every tradition, but forgiveness is one. Forgiveness is one. It's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, yes, love and be kind, but as a spiritual law, forgiveness. It's taught everywhere in every religion. It's fascinating, too, considering the state of religion in our world, that so many of our differences are based in religion, when the tenets of those religions say forgive and love your enemy. that as well in every religion. So I want to dig deeper a little bit in the law, and I'm reading directly from my book because there are a couple different scriptures that I always go to. We've already read Luke 6:38. Now I'm going to read Luke 6:37, which says, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Then from Galatians, I'm going to read one more scripture because this is going to take us through the whole second half. Both these scriptures. It says, this is Galatians 6, verse 7. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for you reap whatever you sow." You reap whatever you sow. You know what that means? Whatever you plant is what comes up. Whatever you plant is what comes up. I've noticed in the garden, if I plant squash seeds, I get squash. I don't get watermelons. Right? So that scripture given to a land-based society, you reap whatever you sow. In other words, you harvest whatever energy you put out. Yeah. So this takes a great deal of responsibility and awareness to even really understand these scriptures and to begin to live life by these. When you live by these, you realize there is no one to blame. Now, having said that, I know I can hear somebody say, well, aren't there injustices? Yes, there are. And the way we correct them is by taking responsibility for our behavior. We can only be responsible for us, right? So you can talk about how wrong everybody is, but if you do that, guess what? You reap what you sow. People are going to talk about how wrong you are. How fun is that? Look where we are in our world right now. You can see how fun it is. It's hell is what it is. So what do you want to reap? What are you sowing? In other words, what are you planting in terms of your conversations, your thoughts, your actions? What are you planting? If you are giving forgiveness, if you are not judging, if you're not gossiping, guess what you get back? Forgiveness, love, acceptance. It's that simple. It's that simple. But this is definitely a higher spiritual practice. This is a higher spiritual practice. Science says it this way. Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion says, for every action, there is an equal and opposite what? Reaction, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when I know something is true, friends, when it's true in science, when it's true in spirituality, it's like, in other words, the universe is going, get this, get this. All right. In the East, they say, the law of karma is exact. The law of cause and effect. In other words, whatever you put out there, there's going to be an effect. Right? And the piece we forget to see is how it comes back to us. It's easy to see what other people are doing and go, look at the craziness they're causing. And we turn around and do the exact same thing. We talk about how crazy everybody is. And it's so tempting, right? Because it sure looks crazy. But I'm here to say that the more we do that, the more we're lost in delusion. The more we're lost in delusion. I don't believe we are helping the world by sitting around talking about how crazy everybody is. It's not helping anything. What helps is enlightened spiritual beings. What helps is taking responsibility for one's behavior, having your adult on board, living an adult life, and raising kids who know who they are and take responsibility for their actions. That's how the world changes. The world changes by us giving of ourselves to each other, by giving our money to the place we receive spiritual food, knowing that as we receive more, we live better lives. Right? So, yes, giving activates the flow of good. Tithing is number one. Forgiveness is also number one. I have two number ones. Somebody asked me the other day, I get a lot of wonderful questions about my journey because I minister to so many people. Somebody said, what would you say is most important in your practice? Because you talk about a lot of things. I said, number one, meditation. Number one, forgiveness. Because forgiveness and meditation go hand in hand. And I would say, and then under that, I would say my daily practice. But they're all kind of tied for number one, because without one, I couldn't do the other. After that, I would say, definitely tithing, yes. Because tithing reminds me of what my source is. But without forgiveness, I probably wouldn't be willing to tithe. Because if I'm holding everybody to some impossible standard, But when I can just take a teaching and apply it, I go, I've been spiritually fed. That's where the tithe goes. I've tithed to friends. I've tithed to spiritual communities. I've tithed, as I said, to my teachers. And mostly I tithe to my spiritual community because that's the place I get the most spiritual food. One other way that's a real physical way to activate the flow of good is to begin to release what no longer serves us on the physical level. I didn't want to start with that because we often start with that, but that's really a much simpler practice. And I think that our listeners are a little more advanced than that and are ready for the deeper work. But if you like to hold on to things, chances are you're holding on to old energy. And so one of the ways we activate the flow of good is making space. And it's one of my favorites because I really like to live in a clean and clear environment. And that has changed. Nobody in my 20s would have ever said, oh, she's a neat freak. I'm not really a neat freak now, but I love paying my cleaning lady. I can tell you that. And I used to always say my two favorite checks to pay are tithing and my cleaning lady. She's amazing too. What a beautiful spirit. I mean, oh wow, what a beautiful spirit. She cleans my house physically and spiritually. She's just a beautiful, beautiful soul. So anyway, having said that, I love to live in a clean and clear environment. And so pretty often I'll go through a different section of the house, like, usually in the winter, I go through my sweaters because what happens in Florida is you buy a sweater and you wear it once and then it sits there for 2 or 3 years. I don't know how it gets old just sitting there or how but it does. And so I keep sending stuff to siblings that are in different states that, can actually use them, but, or just, taking them to the local thrift store or whatever. But I love to clear things out. And what I've noticed is if I can just hold on a little bit, then somehow that space is filled with something new, something better. Sometimes it's bought by me. Sometimes it's gifted to me. But just clearing out space really does, clearing out things in your home makes a space to receive. So it activates the flow of good anytime we release. Anytime we release. So think about, are there things in your general awareness right now, that are in your daily life that you no longer need? I want to give you some examples. Old clothes, old shoes, things from past relationships that remind you of hurt or emotional baggage, even things from childhood. I had a piece of furniture, and I love antiques. So I had a piece of furniture I'd had since I was about 11 or 12. And every time I looked at it, I had a painful childhood memory. It was just the strangest thing. And I loved the furniture, but once I realized it was creating this, this emotional kind of turmoil, I thought, what do I need to do with this? So I really prayed about it. And many of the people in my family like antiques because we just grew up with a lot of old things just because they were in the family. And so I asked my sister, I said, do you have any desire for this? Oh, yes, I'd love it. And so anyway, it was real fun to release that and replace it with something brand new with no energy other than I love this thing. And that just felt less complicated. It just felt now that in my most sacred of places, in my bedroom, it's only energy I want and love. That's it. That was important. That was important. So what was so amazing, I got to release something. It benefited someone else that I love dearly, my sister, and it benefited me because I made space to receive something else. And I was willing to have clothes in crates until I found something I wanted. I said, I'm really fine not to have anything if I have to. And maybe, by the way, I don't need half these clothes anyway. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing. It took me a couple of months to get to the place where I was willing to part with it. And then when I did, it was divine order. It really activated the flow of good. So you see, the spiritual practice I'm talking about is the practice of giving and being a giver to life. We've talked about tithing. We've talked about just giving of yourself and your time. We've talked about forgiveness, where we release old energy we're holding against another. That's what forgiveness is. It's not condoning bad behavior. It is us releasing the toxic energy of hate and resentment so that love can take its place. That's really the practice of forgiveness. And then finally, we've talked about just clearing out your physical space. I have a friend who, takes 15 minutes a week and cleans out a different area of her home. And what's so amazing about that, she says, is her house always feels new because it's clean. It's just one little small area, like a little shelf in the kitchen that she cleans up. And so think about that. Are there things that are holding old, kind of psychological, emotional issues that you could release? And could someone else benefit from the things that you're holding on to? Remember that as you do this, as you trust, as you release, that you are activating the flow of good by releasing this to someone who needs it and then making a space to receive. What I want you to remember, number one, is any time you give, you are activating the flow of good. Whether you buy lunch, you buy a cup of coffee, whether you're tithing, giving of yourself, or forgiving, or cleaning out your home, anytime you are giving, it's good. All giving is good. So I want to encourage you in the coming week to be a giver to life. See how it feels. Once you really start giving more, you're never going to want to stop. Giving feels empowered. It brings energy into your life. And it certainly, dear friends, activates the flow of good. Again, I want to mention my book, Prosperity for You. It is available on my website at CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. They're really inexpensive, and I'd be happy for you to go on and to get those. So we bless you on the journey, dear friend. As always, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.